Welcome to this Operoo training video. In this video, we're going to look at the SIMS pre-admission eForms. These are the eForms where the data syncs to SIMS. If you have any questions, you can contact our support team. To contact our support team, you can click on the live chat down here on the bottom right-hand side and start a chat. Alternatively, click on help and click on support. That will take you through to our website where it outlines the various ways that you can contact our support team. You can also reach out to your dedicated customer success manager or CSM. You should have their contact details by now. They're always happy to help with any question that you may have. Also, in later meetings with your CSM, we will ensure that you are happy with your form and answer any of those last minute questions you may have before you enable or before you make your form live and it's sent out to your parents and carers to complete. With this, we'll just jump straight in and show you how to create that form. In the center of my account here, I have add eForm. Clicking on that, I'm then asked what type of form it is that I'd like to create. The pre-admission form is going to be a parent form, as it will be the parent who's completing the form. So I'm going to click add parent form. From here, to find those SIMS forms that sync back into SIMS, I need to click on Use an Operoo Best Practice Parent eForm template and search for SIMS. That will bring up three forms: SIMS pre-admission form consent only, SIMS pre-admission form entire form, and finally the ethnic, cultural and family background only form. As a school, you have an option. You could send out one form for your consent, one form for your ethnic, cultural and family background information, and then under the entire form, this form contains contacts. So you could then choose this form and delete the questions that you didn't want. Alternatively, as most schools do, most schools will send one form. That is what the entire form will do. This entire form contains all of your contacts, your consents, your ethnic, cultural and family background, and also some questions about the students themselves. When you've found the form that you want, all you're going to do is click on that name. So I've just clicked on the entire form now. It is quite a large form, and I'll explain in a few moments why it's so big. So it might take a few minutes to open on your screen. When it's open and when it's loaded, you can tell we've got this big yellow bold text here that you're looking at now that I'm highlighting. Before I go over what you can and can't do with the form, I wanted to point out this link here, SIMS Pre-Admission eForm Templates Guidance for SIMS Schools. Clicking the link here will take you through to our knowledge base. This opens up our knowledge base on the guidance on how to complete this form. It is very important, and I cannot stress enough that how I would ask you to read this guidance and make sure you understand this guidance. If you do one of the things that you cannot do, the result will be that the data will not sync to SIMS. So it is vital that you read and understand everything that is in this guidance. If you have any questions at all, regardless of how big or small, please do reach out to the support team or reach out to your CSM, and we can get those questions answered for you. Back into Operoo, I'm going to go over some of the things that you can and can't do in this session today. So right at the top, in terms of the title, you can call the title whatever you would like to call it. The only reason we've called it SIMS pre-admission form entire form is so schools can identify the form that they need to start with. So this is a free text field, school year 22/23, for example. You might even remove the SIMS. The next field down, this special case tag, this has to do with the coding between SIMS and Operoo. So please just leave it alone. It won't be seen by parents. Parents won't even know it exists, so just ignore it if you could do. This section down here, that yellow bold highlighted, once you've got the guidance, it does say, please ensure you refer to the guidance, and then also please delete this before enabling the form to parents. So deleting all of that, you are then left with some text. Dear parent carer, please complete the form below for @profile first name. This is all free text. You can put in here whatever you would like to. We've just given you some sample text of what might go in here. These placeholders here, @profile first name, would put in the student's first name. The organization name would put in your school name. Placeholders are found up here on the top left-hand side, just where my mouse is hovering over now, and that gives you some information about each placeholder themselves. In here as well, you can bold, highlight, underline, however you choose to format that first section of the form. Coming down into the form itself, there are 5 sections. Section 1 is basic details about the student. Section 2 is parental contacts. Section 3 is emergency non-parental contacts. Section 4 is your ethnicity section, and Section 5 is your consents. Throughout the form, you will see questions which are known as additional notes, as question 1 is right now. You are able to put whatever text in here you would like to. This is just, again, some sample text that we have put in here. You could leave this in here, or you could change this to whatever you would like. When you come down to the questions themselves, so looking at question 2 on my screen, which is preferred forename, you can change the question name. So you might choose to say preferred first name, for example. That's completely fine. You can change this text however you would like it to display to the parent or carer. Over on the right-hand side, if you want the question to be required, so that's mandatory, the parent must complete that question before submitting the form, simply select required, and that makes that question mandatory for the parent. You can move questions around. So if I wanted to move them a short place, for example, you can click on the green or you can click on the grey underneath, holding my mouse down. I'm just going to drag that down. So now I have the surname as the first question and the first name underneath that. This blue button here with the white lines and the numbers 1, 2, 3, if you are moving questions a longer length, so maybe more than 3 questions, clicking on that, it will show you all of the questions within the form. And then you can click on that. Say I wanted to move this to question 14 and click move. That question is now jumped down to question 14. So with the questions, you can change the name of the question. You can set it as mandatory. You can move it around. You could also delete the question if you wanted to. So hitting the white cross, that would delete that question so the parent would not see it. You may have noticed we also have this required character length here. Within SIMS has certain validations. What we have done within the form is we've built in those validations. So for example, SIMS won't allow a name which exceeds 60 characters in length. So we have built in this validation of 60. Any way that you see a validation, this is as per SIMS. So our recommendation is that you do not change this. If you obviously increase this to 70 and a parent provides you with a name which is over 60 characters, SIMS will reject the value because it does not meet their validations. In the guidance, which is up here on the top, which I referred to earlier, there is a full list of the validations that we have added into the form as well. So you can see those all in one go. What is the most important thing here is this reference here. So looking at question 2, preferred _ surname _ student. This is what we refer to as the question name identifier, or the Q&I. This is the direct linking for this question, preferred surname, the preferred surname that the parent has given on the form to the preferred surname field in SIMS. Vital, please don't touch it. Just leave it alone, just ignore it. If you edit this, delete it, you have broken that connection and the data will not sync to SIMS. So that's a highlight of the things that you can and can't do when you're looking at specific questions such as question 2, the preferred surname or the preferred first name. Scrolling down the form, you then have middle name. You have child's NHS number. So if you don't want NHS number, for example, just delete the question. You then have legal gender. So this legal gender question, and you'll see quite a few of these that have an option of male or female as gender is. This has come through from SIMS. In SIMS, there is only male or female. If you were to change this to boy, girl, the data would not sync because boy, girl does not exist in SIMS. It is male or female. So it's vitally important that the options that are available to parents and carers to select match exactly as they are in SIMS. Further down, we then have country of birth. Now, you will also see this throughout the form. Please update using the replace options with SIMS list functionality. What that means is that you're going to bring in your list values from your SIMS. Now, in order to activate this feature, you need to have saved the form. So I'm going to scroll right down the bottom to the form, and I'm going to save that form. That will take a few seconds to save. Once it does, it will be on the member page. I'm then going to go back into questions so I can continue editing the form. It won't be too long. There we go. So it's in members. I'm going to jump back into questions. So once that loads, I'll come down to my country of birth question again. It is still loading. It shouldn't be too long. There we go. So that form's now loaded again. So coming down into my country of birth. So this is telling me, please update, use the replace options with SIMS list functionality, and it's nationality that I'm looking for. All I need to do, all you'll need to do is click replace options with SIMS list. On the left-hand, find the nationality lookup value here. Selecting that, these are all the nationalities that we have in our test SIMS environment. Clicking confirm, that is now overridden the please update using the replace options with SIMS list, and it is now the nationalities that are in that SIMS lookup table. With questions such as question 5, you will see an option over here on the right hand side called autocomplete. If you select this, this list will not show to parents as each option underneath each other. It will show as a searchable drop down. So if the parent starts typing UNI for United Kingdom, it would show United Kingdom, United States, any of those countries that start with UNI, and just make it a more seamless experience for the parent. Any of those questions which have more than 5 options, we have gone and selected autocomplete for you automatically. So you notice question 4 isn't selected because there are 2 options. If you would like autocomplete on, all you need to do is select it, and then it will show as a drop down to the parent. Scrolling further down, there's quite a few options here, so I'm just going to keep scrolling through them. Then I'm going to come to my address fields or address questions. I've got address apartment, address house name, house number, street, district, town, city, county, preferred first name. I moved that down. I was wondering why it was there. Then I've got postcode and I've got country as well. So again, you can see country is using the replace options with SIMS list. It's really important to note, just so you know as well, with the postcode, it is a postcode validation question. So it must be a valid postcode that is provided. On top of that, if the parent or carer provides it in lowercase, it will automatically revert to capitals for you. So when that data does sync back into SIMS, it will sync in with capitals in the postcode. Further down, for the student, we then have mode of travel, bus route. If you don't ask for the bus route, just delete the question, and service children in education. So make those changes however you need to make them, but please don't touch that Q&I right here for this question. Then we come down into section 2. Section 2 is your parent or carer or parent guardian information. 19 you can see is an additional note. So again, this is all free text. You can put whatever you choose to put in this box here. For each parental contact, well, let me start by saying part of the reason why this form is so large is because we have built questions where you could ask for 9 priority contacts if you wanted to. So most of the schools that we speak to ask for 2 parental and 2 non-emergency. If you are along those lines and you're not asking for 9 contacts, what you'll need to do is you'll just need to delete some questions, and I will show you how to do that in a minute in terms of deleting them all. For each parental contact, you have the relationship to child. Now, I wanted to show you the replace options with SIMS list because I wanted to show you something else that you can do. So if I click replace options with SIMS list, look for my relationship type, there it is, and then click confirm. When you have pulled in your list values from SIMS, you can delete options. So for example, this is a parental care or parental guardian relationship to child. So I'm going to delete doctor. I'm going to delete head teacher, and I'm going to delete teacher, and I'm going to delete childminder. So I don't want those 4 options being selected because this is parental contacts. You can delete options as I've just done. What's really important is the options remain exactly as they are in your SIMS. So if you came in here and said, oh, actually, I want it to be grandparents, but grandparent existed in SIMS, you came to the form, you put in an S, went out, anyone who selected grandparents, when you went to sync that data back to SIMS, SIMS would reject it because in SIMS, it's grandparent without an S. So just make sure, I keep saying this is where some schools get tripped up. I keep saying, just make sure that those values are as they should be and as they are in SIMS. Further down, you've then got parental responsibility, priority contact number. So if you were asking for 2 parental contacts, you could, if you wanted to, delete 3 to 9. So that is just leaving 1 and 2 for the parent to choose from. Then you've got court orders relating to the contact, I should say, title of the contact, surname, forename, legal gender, The phone numbers, so mobile phone number, work phone number, home phone number, email address, and all of those address fields again. Address, apartment, house name, house number, street, district, county, town, city, I should say, postcode and country. Also for your parental contacts, you have place of work, job title, NI number, first language, and translator required. So if you don't need to ask some of those questions, or it isn't data that you need to collect, just delete those questions. I said you can change the title, but please don't touch the Q&I and make sure the list values match exactly as they are in your SIMS. Then you come down to parent, guardian, or parent carer contact 2. The changes that you've made for the first parent, you would make for the second, so they mirror each other. If I then come all the way down to contact 3, this is where I would delete questions. So for this example, I'm going to ask for 2 parental contacts and 2 emergency non-parental contacts. There is no bulk delete option. So all you need to do is keep clicking on the delete this question. So I'm just clicking this. There is, I should say, it won't take long. It will probably take about 3 to 4 minutes to delete the questions that you don't want. The only thing to please be wary of is to not overclick. There is no undo button. So what I would recommend is that you make your changes up until that point. So your section 1, your section 2 for your parental contacts, and then save the form. Then go in and delete those questions. So if you overclick, you can go back and all you're doing is deleting again. So I'm up to 9. I've nearly deleted all of 9. So that's taken 2 or 3 minutes to delete those questions. So not a long time that takes. Then you jump down into section 3, non-parental emergency contact information. Again, 74 as mine currently stands is an additional note, so you can put whatever data you choose to put in here. Coming down, for your non-parental emergency contact questions, we ask relationship to child, priority contact number. So for 1 and 2, we deleted 3 to 9. What you could do if you wanted to is delete all of them except 3 to 4. So then parents can choose priority 3, 4. It's up to you. You might choose to put 1, 2, 3, 4, however you choose to do it. Then you have court orders relating to that contact, title, surname, forename, all of those phone numbers and those addresses again. If you do not ask for street addresses for your emergency non-parental contacts, just delete those questions. Then you have first language and translator required. Then you have an option to ask for a second non-parental emergency contact. If you're going to ask for a second one, make sure your questions for your emergency contact 1 and emergency contact 2 mirror each other. So whatever changes you need to make them for this contact as well. Once you've done that, you come down into section 4, which is your ethnic, cultural and family background section. With this section, most of the options are using that replace options with SIMS list. So you have ethnicity, national identity, religion, first language, home language, any other languages spoken outside of English, if the child has asylum status, and does the child speak Welsh. So adjust that section however you need to. Again, please don't touch the Q&Is and make sure that the options available to the parents match what is in your SIMS. The last section of the form is section 5, which is your consent section. So this pulls from section 12 in SIMS. So clicking replace options with SIMS list, it's student parental consent, and that will override the options. So I now have from my test SIMS environment, copyright permission all the way down to sex education. If there are any consents that you do not want parents to see, for example, if you are a primary school, and you don't want the parents of reception students to see sex education, just delete that option and then parents won't see that. If you find when you sync over your consent from section 12 and you're not happy or you don't like the way that they've been added, because I do know schools can customize that section, please don't make the change in here, make the change in SIMS, wait for a sync to take place again, then use the replace options with SIMS list, just to ensure that your options here match exactly what's in your SIMS. Finally, within the form, we have a signature and a date. They don't go anywhere. They stay in Operoo. They're on the form simply because parents would be used to signing and dating a piece of paper. It is entirely up to you whether you choose to keep them or you want to delete them. Lastly, then we've got questions right down the bottom. So the questions that you've seen so far, those are the questions that will sync to SIMS. If you wanted to add any questions to this form, you can do so. However, it's really important to remember that they will not sync to SIMS. So for example, you might want to ask about siblings. So for that, you might use a multi-column list question. Clicking that, it will open up the question. I'm just going to put siblings for today's example. You might choose to put more text in that. Name, school, year, for example. Leaving that question name identifier field blank because the data will not sync to SIMS, and then you can move that question to wherever you'd like it to be. And then say I've moved that to question 91. So any questions that you would like to add to the form, feel free, you can do so, but the data won't sync. And all you need to do is just click on the question type that you're after and populate that question. Once you have done that within your form, coming down and clicking save again. Once that's saved, it will take you to the members screen. I'm going to go over these next sections. I'm not going to go over them in great detail. I'm going to touch on the most important settings that I feel you should be looking at in your pre-admission form. But in those later meetings that you have with your CSM, if there are any other settings that you're not sure about or you'd like to know more information about, please ask your CSM, or you can also come down to support and ask our support team as well. With members, however, this is where you would specify which students are going to have access to this form or which parents of those students will have access. Static members is where you would manually add and remove members. So you would select a member and you would drag them down to this form. Dynamic members is where the member selection will automatically update based on the criteria that you have specified. Your pre-admission form will be a dynamic member. Coming into dynamic member and choose filter, what you'll then see on the left-hand side are the groups. Now you will have groups from SIMS, for example, houses, registration groups and years, but this is where you would create or would have created your other groups. Now, if you haven't created your pre-admission group and you are watching this video, there is another video that shows you how to create groups. So please watch that. And that will explain how to create your pre-admission group. However, there is also a knowledge base article on how to create groups as well, and the support team and your CSM can help. My pre-admission group has already been created. So all I'm going to do is select admissions on the left-hand side. I have 10 pre-admission students. Clicking confirm and clicking save and next. And I'm now being told that this form will be associated with 10 students. Clicking OK. Then I come into the settings of the form itself. So the first setting is your access restrictions. If you're not familiar with access restrictions, they were outlined in the configurations and settings webinar or training session that we held, and there is also a knowledge base article on access restrictions. Coming down, this restrict other contacts from viewing the responses. This is a really important setting to point out. Any contact who has view and update access to Operoo. So any student contact who has access to log into Operoo to see eForms and to see the student profile can see any eForm response, regardless of whether they have given the response or another contact has given the response. What you can do for certain forms where you think it might be appropriate, you can change that. So you can restrict other contacts from viewing the responses. So if I select this now, I send this out to a parent, just say mum completes the form. When dad logs in, dad would not be able to see the form responses that mum has given. So it is not best practice to set this for every form because there are a lot of cases where both parents need to have access to the responses that have been given, but there will be certain scenarios such as a change of contact details where you might want to limit the responses to the person who submitted the form only. So bear that in mind, please, when you are looking at your settings of your forms. Then you've got the responses. This is the deadline date. When is the deadline date for parents to respond to this form? If you set a deadline date, parents will see this form in the email asking them to respond to the form When they first log into Operoo, they will also see this when they open the form. It's right at the top on the left-hand side. It clearly outlined when they need to respond to the form by. Setting a response deadline date of the 21st of May, for example, you can change this. So if it comes to 21st of May and you still have 10 responses, you can push this date out, say, then extend it to the 28th of May. Frequency of email reminders. This is how often you would like Operoo to remind those parents who haven't responded to the form that they need to do so. You can also change this as well. You might start it every 7 days, and then in the lead up to the deadline, you might come in and change it to every day. Enabled is making the form live. Please don't, I know it's an easy thing to say, but please don't enable the form until you're absolutely happy with it and you have previewed that form. You can also auto-enable if you wanted to. So for example, you could choose to auto-enable the form on the 18th of May at 12:30 in the morning. And then come 12:30 in the morning on the 18th of May, that form would automatically enable for you. Then you have your categories. If you're not familiar with categories, we did touch on them in the settings and configurations video. There is also a knowledge base article on categories. So you can color code your forms and search by category. Further down, we have display staff contact details. What this means is if you gave 5 staff members access to this eForm, they would be able to see all of the responses the parents have provided. They would be able to see all of the students who have been associated to the form, the students' dietary and medical information, if you're asking for that, the students' emergency contact information, but also they would see each other's contact details. So all staff contact details. If you don't want staff to be able to see that, just unselect this and then they would just see the names of the staff members who have access to this form. Track membership changes. What this is think of it as a audit trail. So it will show you when students have been associated to this form and when students have been removed from this form. Send email notification when an eForm response is submitted or changed to. If you put in your email address or multiple email addresses into this field, once a parent has submitted a form or changed their response, an email will go to that email address, letting that person know. And then a couple of last ones here, reply to. Whoever creates that form, it will populate with their email address, which is against their staff profile within Operoo. If there is a generic email, so admissions at, for example, that should field any queries from parents, just put in that specific email address in that reply to field there. And lastly, please don't archive the form until you have verified your data and it has synced back into SIMS. After that, you can manually archive the form. Clicking Save and Next, that will then take me to my triggers page. Triggers is a really cool functionality. I think it's one of our best functionalities within the system. We have quite a few. Let's be honest, I like all of our system, but triggers is definitely up there for me. What it is you can complete your workflow. So you can do a follow-on action based on a question within a form. So for example, with a trigger, you can send an email back to the parent. You could send an email to anyone within the school. You could send an email to anyone, an external caterer, for example. They don't have to be a member of Operoo. You could send another eForm to the parent. You could add the student to a group. There's multiple ways that you can use triggers. Some main examples that we give most schools using the pre-admission forms is a generic email that goes back to the parent. Thank you for your submission. We look forward to welcoming your child. And just a really nice email that goes back to the parent. When parents submit the form, they are shown a pop-up letting them know that the form has been submitted. But I think a nice email may remove the need for parents calling you, asking you to confirm that you've received their submission. Other examples of forms that triggers you might want to create, you might ask a question about if the child is eligible for free school meals, a yes, no, maybe question. And then you might put a trigger on that. If the parent says yes or unsure, they're sent an automatic email that asks them to complete an application form. They would click on that link, it would open up the external application form, and then they would see whether they're eligible or not. I do have more examples. That's just a few. What I want to do now is I want to show you how to create a trigger. So I'm going to create that trigger, which is that email back to the parent, thanking them for their submission. When it comes to creating a trigger, there's a few high-level questions that you need to answer. This helps Operoo know what's going to activate that trigger. The first one is select a question. So what question is going to activate that trigger? For this, I'm going to use a question that I know all parents are going to respond to, and all parents are going to respond to the legal gender because I have that as a mandatory question. Then I have an option, or I'm being asked to choose a rule. My options are a specific option selected. So if I select this, it's male, female, or provide any non-blank answer. For this trigger, it's going to every parent, regardless of the gender of the child. So I'm going to select provide any non-blank answer. Then I'm asked to choose an action to execute. This is my list here. I'm going to send an email. Then I'm choose to select a sub-action. This is where I'm going to send an email to the parents. After I've done that, as with any email, a subject and a body of the email. So it's free text. So for your submission, thank you for your submission. What you can also do, if you have placeholders over here, I could put in the organization name. So this would read, thank you for your submission for Tom's school. Further down, dear parent carer, thank you for your submission. Oh, can't spell. I'm just going to copy and paste this. And then I have other placeholders. So I could put in the profile name, which remembering is the first and last name of the student, or I could put in profile first name, which is the first name for the student. So thank you for your submission for insert first name. We look forward to welcoming whatever text you would like to put in there. Once you've created your trigger, click create new trigger. From here, that has saved. I can edit the trigger by clicking the pencil icon if I wanted to. I could see the details of the trigger, so what is driving that trigger. In the trigger activities, this will show me information about the trigger itself. When was it created? Who created it? How many times it's been activated? Now, this is an email trigger, so which parents have received this? How long did it take for that email to be sent to the parent? All of that pertinent information there. And then finally, I can delete that trigger by clicking the bin icon. You can create as many triggers as you would like. Now, there's no limit to the number of triggers that you create within your form. Once you've created all your triggers, clicking next, this will then show you the preview of the form. Now, I haven't done much to this form. I've deleted a lot of questions, but that's pretty much all I've done. But I can scroll down and I can see some of those changes that I've made. Now, what's really important to note, country of birth. I selected autocomplete when I was building the form. Autocomplete does not show in your profile, but it will show to your parent. So as long as you have autocomplete selected, the parent will see it as a drop-down list. From here, you can PDF the form if you wanted to, email it to anybody else within the school if you needed them to have a look at it. You can send yourself a test email as well. Now, this will not show you the form, that's under preview. This will just show you the email that the parent will receive when they're asked to complete the form. So if you would like to see one of these, just put in your email address and click send. If you wanted to make any changes to that form, simply click questions and that will open that editing form back up again. And then you can make those questions to the form as you need to do so. If I now navigate over to my form library, the other way that I can edit my form, when you create a form, the latest form that you've created will be at the top. So I've got my pre-admission form here, clicking on that form and then edit form. So I can go back into the form that way and edit the form should I need to. So when it comes to creating your form, start from an Operoo best practice parent eForm template, type in SIMS, search for one of those, or select one of those SIMS forms. Please make sure they are the SIMS forms. They are the only forms that sync to SIMS, and then make those changes to make that form customizable or suitable for your school. Just please bear in mind the guidance. Please read the guidance. Please make sure that you understand the guidance. We want your data to sync back to SIMS successfully. We don't want to see you having to copy and paste your data from Operoo into SIMS. The last couple of things that I wanted to mention. Once you have your form responses back, what you need to do is you need to match the responses or the contacts that have been given against those contacts that you hold in SIMS, and then verify that data. Once you have done that, so once you've matched and verified all of your form responses, that's when your eForm data would sync back into SIMS. Now, there is a knowledge base article on this, and your customer success manager and your support, I should say our support team, will have all of the information about how to do this process. But there is some manual work that you will need to do just to match those responses. So we know, for example, if we're creating a new contact in SIMS, if we're overriding the information that's already in SIMS with what's being provided on the form, or the last option, if you don't want us to do anything with that information, maybe not sync back a specific contact because that data already exists in SIMS, in which case you would tell us not to sync that data back. That's it for your pre-admission form. I say that's it, but there's quite a lot. But work through your form, create your form how you need to create it. Now, when it comes to creating other forms, I know schools create other forms such as a homeschool agreement, or if it's a nursery or reception setting, kind of a getting to know you form. When you come to create other forms, you would create them the same way. So I'm just going to jump back into my students, add eForm, and then add parent form. From there, you can choose an Operoo best practice template. Again, we have multiple form templates that you can choose from. For example, a medical practice form, a getting to know you nursery, all about me. There are homeschool agreements. So you can choose one of these forms and then customize it to your requirements, or you can start from a blank form as well. If you're starting from a blank form, most of your options for a pre-admission form will be a custom unsigned, which is a non-event form not requiring a signature, but you can add one, or a custom signed form, which is a non-event form requiring a signature. All you would do is click on the option that you require, and then it gives you a completely blank form. So this is very similar to the SIMS form, except this one has no information. You would put in a title, put in the information and add those questions and click save. All the settings are the same that I went through on the pre-admission form. Hopefully you've found that helpful, and that's a really good starting point for you to create your pre-admission form. Please don't forget, if you have any questions, contact the support team or contact your dedicated CSM, all of which we are more than happy to help you through creating your pre-admission form. Now, if you haven't had a chance, there is the settings and configuration video to watch, which does guide you through settings and configurations of your account. And there is that group video, which shows you how to create groups, whether they are static groups, so that's a manual group, or a dynamic group, so that's an automatic member association based on your attributes that you set up. Thank you very much for your time. Any questions, please let us know. Thank you.